Have you ever noticed this? Some of the smartest people barely speak. They don't show off. They don't try to impress anyone. And yet, when they finally do speak, everything goes quiet. People lean in. They listen. Why? Because intelligence doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. These people don't chase likes or attention. They don't try to fit in. And still, they're the ones you remember, the ones who leave a mark. So, here's the real question. Why does true intelligence make people uncomfortable? Why do the ones who think for themselves often get rejected, feared, or misunderstood? In this video, we're going to break that down, using the ideas of Friedrich Nietzsche, because he saw this before most people did. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Threat of the Independent Thinker. Let's be honest. Society doesn't really like people who think for themselves. It says it does, but the moment someone questions the rules, stands alone, or chooses a different path, suddenly they're weird, difficult, or even dangerous. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe." Why? Because when someone isn't easy to control, they become a threat. Think about it. Why do we mock the loner? Why do we resent the person who doesn't follow the crowd? Why is silence more threatening than noise? It's not new. Socrates was executed for asking too many questions. Galileo was silenced for saying the Earth wasn't the center of the universe. Nietzsche was ignored while he was alive. But today, he's quoted by millions. So maybe the truth is this. Society fears intelligence, not because it's wrong, but because it can't be controlled. And that changes everything. Chapter 2. The Shadow Behind Obedience. Here's something you might not hear often. Most people aren't actually afraid of smart people. They're afraid of what smart people make them feel. Because deep intelligence doesn't just talk, it reflects. It acts like a mirror, showing others what they've been avoiding in themselves. Carl Jung called this the shadow. It's the hidden part of us, the fears, the insecurities, the truths we push down and pretend don't exist. And intelligent people, they don't just fit in, they question, they challenge, they see things that others are trying to ignore. That's uncomfortable. You wear a mask to survive, but intelligence sees through masks. And here's the key truth. The ego doesn't want truth. It wants to feel good. It wants to be right. It wants to stay safe. That's why intelligence can feel like a threat. Not because it's dangerous, but because it's honest. And honesty, that's rare. Chapter 3. Now, imagine if you did the same. What if you stopped dumbing yourself down just to be accepted? What if you stopped shrinking just to make others comfortable? What if you stopped apologizing for seeing what others pretend not to? What if, instead of blending in, you started standing out? From conformist to creator, from pleaser to philosopher. Yes, some people would pull away. Some would say you've changed, some might call you too much. But the ones who remain, they'd finally meet the real you. Because here's the truth, if people only like the version of you that stays small, what they love isn't you, it's their comfort. And if you never challenge that, you spend your whole life performing instead of becoming. So what would happen if you stopped performing and just started being? Chapter 4. Intelligence breaks the illusion of order. Have you ever wondered why people get uncomfortable around those who ask too many questions? Society runs on silent rules. Be like us. Believe what we believe. Don't go too far outside the lines. It tells you there's only one way to live. Go to school. Get the job. Fit in. Stay in line. And anyone who dares to ask, but why? Anyone who sees that the system has cracks gets labeled as difficult, arrogant, or even dangerous. But maybe they're not dangerous. Maybe they're just awake. Nietzsche understood this. He didn't want borrowed values. He wanted truth. Become who you are, he said. Not who society tells you to be. Not what the system rewards, but who you are, deeply, fully, unapologetically. That's why Nietzsche walked away from academic fame and wrote in solitude. Because real intelligence doesn't chase applause. And Søren Kierkegaard? He ended his own engagement, not out of coldness, but out of honesty, because staying would have meant lying to himself. So here's the question. What part of you have you kept quiet, just to keep the illusion alive? Chapter 5. This is not about being cold, it's about being clear. You were taught to fit in, to not make it weird, to not be too much, to keep the peace, even if it meant losing your voice. But here's the truth. You can't be loved for who you are if you keep hiding who that is. This isn't about being cold, it's about being clear. You were taught that standing out makes you arrogant, but the truth is, standing out makes you honest. It means you're no longer performing, you're no longer shape-shifting just to be liked. This is not about rejecting others, it's about finally accepting yourself. Because the real illusion is the belief that fitting in equals safety. But fitting in, when it costs your truth, isn't safety. It's self-abandonment. So I ask you now, what part of yourself have you been hiding just to keep the peace? And more importantly, what might happen if you finally let it speak? Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." And that's the truth most people miss. Intelligent people scare society, not because they're dangerous, but because they don't need permission. They don't need applause to exist. They think for themselves. They walk alone and still move mountains. They don't follow the world. They build their own. So if something in this message hit a little too close to home, that's not by accident. That's your inner voice waking up. You're not here to shrink. You're here to become. And if you're ready for that, then don't just watch. Join, subscribe. Not for me, but for the version of you that's tired of hiding, tired of pretending, tired of not being heard.